Jamaica recorded 72 new COVID-19 cases and 9 deaths, increasing the infection total now to 86,456 and the death toll from the virus to 2,034. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has reported that the new cases comprise 38 females and 34 males, ranging in age from 11 days to 97 years. The cases were recorded in Kingston and St. Andrew with 22 cases. St. Catherine and St. James recorded 14 cases each. Clarendon recorded 6 cases. Hanover, 4. Trelawney and Westmoreland recorded 3 cases each, while St. Thomas, Manchester and St. Anne recorded 2 cases each. The deceased comprise 3 fatalities each from Kingston and St. Andrew and St. Catherine, 2 fatalities from St. Elizabeth and 1 fatality from Clarendon. The deaths occurred between September 18 and October 11, 2021. In the meantime, 145 additional persons have recovered in the last 24 hours, increasing the total of recovered persons now to 54,569. There are 29,264 confirmed active COVID-19 cases on the island. In the meantime, the health team from the Manchester Health Services will embark on a vaccination drive in the town centre tomorrow, October 13, beginning at 9 a.m. Persons are being encouraged to travel with their government-issued identification and tax registration number (TRN) cards to make the vaccination process easier. The team will be in the town centre across the greens until 4 p.m. to provide the Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines to members of the general public. As we continue with the news tonight, mandatory vaccination is neither right nor practical, says Mark Golding, People's National Party president and leader of the opposition. Mark Golding, during yesterday's press conference at the party's headquarters, has reiterated the opposition's disapproval of mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations, saying that with the majority of Jamaicans against mandatory vaccinations, any such policy is neither right nor practical.
Our position is that with over 70% of the population polling as being against mandatory vaccination, we do not think it's practical or right to try and implement mandatory vaccination if that means coercing people to be vaccinated who do not believe it is the right thing to do. We strongly believe that vaccination is the right thing to do. I am vaccinated, the entire shadow cabinet is vaccinated, and we've encouraged everyone to get vaccinated. We believe that the government should seriously consider incentivizing vaccination, not through a bureaucratic process like the CARE program with online applications and failed delivery of the benefits, but an immediate benefit that somebody gets upon being vaccinated, which a voucher of some kind that can be redeemed to help people put food on the table. I think that might help people to make up their mind as well. I believe that the approach that's been taken between the various employer groups and the Joint Trade Union Confederation to work out the procedures to be followed at the workplace in relation to vaccination, a risk-based approach with due process, is the correct approach, but I'm not in favor of mandatory vaccination. If I could add one point to that, and there's another element, which is this: there is no indemnification offered by the government, or as I understand it, by the manufacturers of the vaccines, if somebody has an adverse reaction. How are you going to mandate somebody that they must take a vaccine if you're not prepared to stand behind them with indemnification if they get sick or otherwise suffer an adverse reaction? I don't see that as possible.
Now, as opposition spokespersons picked apart the government's approach to the COVID-19 crisis across sectors during the press conference, Mr. Golding cautioned the government to ensure the vaccination program is not being politicized.
The reality of the situation is that the country is facing the most dire of times. We know that the pandemic continues to reign. The vaccination rollout has been disappointing, to say the least. Jamaica ranks near the very bottom in the region in terms of the percentage of our population that is vaccinated. The daily numbers of persons who are getting vaccinated, despite the various blitzes, is way behind what is necessary to achieve the desired targets. In the meantime, the country was led to believe that the Pfizer vaccine was no longer available because supplies had been fully utilized. Persons were given first doses and scheduled appointment dates for second doses, and on those appointment dates were unable to get their second doses. Yet in other places we're told the Pfizer vaccine has been made available. And indeed, in communities, in divisions where the governing party has political control. We feel that the politicization of the vaccination program would be disastrous for this country. It needs to be a national program with all hands on deck, and we do not want to see any hint that it is being used for campaigning for political purposes or in any other way other than as an all Jamaica, one Jamaica effort.
In the meantime, Mr. Golding, speaking on the issue of increased murders in the country, explained that the solution to the country's crime problem is to tackle the root causes of why it's happening.
The crime and violence situation in the country is out of hand. Murders are up some 10% this year. Just this week, there was a terrible shooting in the New Haven community by Duhaney Park. I visited the family of the 5-year-old girl who lost her life asleep in her bed. The bullet that killed her flew through 4 zinc fences and a board wall before hitting her. We believe that the only hope for this country is to tackle the causes, the underlying reasons why we have such violent crime. Jamaica is plagued with one of the highest rates of murder per capita, per head of the population in the world. And it is an ongoing and chronic problem. This government has been unable to show any clear, workable strategy for addressing it. We believe balance is necessary, and crucial to this is attacking the root causes of the crime situation.
Opposition spokesman on national security Peter Bunting, for his part, has asserted that the country would be in a better position if the government had adapted the People's National Party's PNP's template on crime.
Well, the government has a template. All they needed to do was continue what we had started in the 2012 to February 2016 period. During that time, we had 1,200 fewer murders, more than that actually, than they have had in the period, 4-year period after, or the 4-year period before. Now, what is it that we were doing differently? We were focused on building the intelligence and investigative capacity. And let me use an example. We passed the DNA Evidence Act. Since that time, the clear-up rate for rapes has increased to over 80%. This is something real, this is something meaningful. And because many of your rapists are serial rapists, those convictions mean that much fewer persons will be raped going forward. Those are the things we focused on. We de-emphasized the militaristic type of policing, where youth in a community felt that they were under occupation by police and soldiers in ballistic helmets and vests, and we emphasized civilian type policing. The then Minister of Justice decriminalized ganja for personal use quantities. that reduce the friction between police and youth in these communities. And it reduced arrests by 14,000 per year, helped to unclog the parish courts, for these relatively minor offenses.
Mr. Bunting, who was speaking at the press conference to address national issues, insisted that the JCF should strengthen its crime investigative measures going forward, as the PNP in their crime template saw at one point less crime happening under their governance.
We also recognize that you had to balance crime control efforts with crime prevention efforts. And through the Unite for Change initiative, we built partnerships across ministries and agencies of government, with civil society groups, with faith-based institutions, and with the communities themselves. And we saw then, 1 year murders fell to 1,005, the lowest in over 2 decades. But for the entire 4-year period, it's the lowest in 15, 20 years as well of any administration. So there is a template that worked at a time when we had much fewer resources than this administration has. We introduced violence interrupters. We supported the peace management initiative to break the cycle of reprisal and counter-reprisal that often results in many, many deaths after the first incident.
Still making news tonight, Southeast St. Anne's Member of Parliament Lisa Hanna is calling for the People's National Party, PNP, to do more to regain the confidence of supporters. She says many PNP supporters have had enough of the infighting that's been affecting the party. Ms. Hanna was speaking over the weekend at the Mark Golding South St. Andrew Constituency Conference. Her call for unity and an attractive message to Jamaicans comes only weeks after opinion polls indicated that the PNP's favorability ratings had slipped further. She further stated that the PNP must bring solid solutions to the people. Ms. Hanna also reiterated the need for a proper crime plan and criticized the Security Minister's announcement that close protection officers would be redeployed to the front line under a new policy. Still making Mellow TV news, the Rotary Club of Negril received its second donation of $50,000 towards internet data for needy children in the area. Here is Kelleen May with details of this story.
The Rotary Club of Negril, in partnership with the Rick's Cafe and other stakeholders, hosted their second ceremony that saw several students benefiting from $50,000 donations, which will enable them to have tablets and internet service for online classes. Raman Bremer, president of the Rotary Club of Negril, explained that there will be monthly donation to the club to ensure needy students have access to internet and devices.
Well, today we are here at Rick's Cafe receiving our second donation of $50,000 towards data for children within the Negril area. So these kids will have an option of whether Lime or Digicel to receive 1 month data so they can go online, yes, and do their studies. Education is the most important thing that we as a society can give our kids. And the Rotary Club of Negril is proud that we're able to do this. And we are thankful that Rick's jumped on board to give us this second donation of $50,000 for kids to get data for a month. So we have a total of $100,000 plus $500 US for kids within the Negril area to get data for at least a month, and they can be online and be connected and do their schoolwork and complete them on time and upload them. We're just encouraging donors to come on board, and we know that every penny received will be spent on the children within the Negril community and surrounding environs.
A donor from Ohio in the United States, Jeff Nestle, explained that he has donated $500 US to the Rotary Club in support of education for children in the area.
I have a great deal of friends here in the Rotary Club, and they brought to my attention the need that the children had because they're out of the classrooms and they need to be connected to the internet and they needed tablets. So I was fortunate enough to be able to help them out with a gift, and I'm sure they'll put it to great use. The kids, they've been out of school for a year and a half because of this terrible situation that we're in, and they're not keeping up with their studies. And they're beautiful kids, and they need to learn, and they want to learn. And so I donated $500 to help them get onto the internet and have tablets, and hope to do more in the future. I would just encourage everybody to help every way they can.
President of Rick's Cafe, Tommy Martin, says their donation is to ensure that children's education is protected and not affected. He also urged persons to work with the government in order to ensure we get back to normalcy and fight this pandemic.
The Negril Rotary Club has given us the opportunity to donate credit minutes to our kids trying to get online and learn and go to school in this pandemic time. So we're very fortunate. We feel like we're the lucky ones, and we're able to give back to the community, and this is something we'd like to continue to do, an ongoing thing. Well, we did a donation last month, and we're doing one this month, and we'd like to continue through the pandemic, continue through the online teaching, which can be very difficult for the kids. So they're not only stressed out about the online teaching, but how am I get the money to finance it to actually get online? So we don't want to leave anyone out. Our Jamaican youth are so intelligent, so bright, so energetic. We do not want to leave anybody out. And our relationship with the Rotary Club and the children of Negril is just starting to grow. So this is a beginning, and we're just, once again, so happy to be involved. Rick's Cafe is a Jamaican icon. We love and cherish our relationship with almost half a century now. That's a pretty good stay at the wickets. Almost half century now. We love and cherish our relationship with Jamaica and the Jamaican people. In this pandemic time, we have to stop fussing and fighting with each other. We have to support our government, who's working hard to solve this pandemic problem. We have to work with the opposition party, who is every day concerned about where are we going and how we're going to get better at fighting the pandemic. Let's stop throwing each other under the bus. Let's come together as a country and solve this problem. Roll up your sleeves and work, but also roll up your sleeves and get vaccinated.
Reporting for Mellow TV News, I'm Killeen May.